So welcome back. Now let's look at what exactly grief is. So when you are asked what is grief, you're likely to get different answers and different responses because some people would respond based on what they have felt in the past or maybe when they lost someone, while some may give you textbook interpretation, others may give you what they think it really is. But what is grief? Is grief an emotion? Is grief a phenomenon? Is grief an experience? Now, grief is actually whatever you call it to be, all right? But let me just say that grief is a strong emotion, all right? It's a strong emotion that you feel, all right, when you have lost someone so dear to you. Now, in one of my books, Beyond Blue, coping with grief and loss, preventing and managing depression, I talked about grief in the sense of losing a loved one or losing one's job. So it is possible for one to be grieving when you have lost a job. But for the sake of this course, we're focusing on the loss of someone. Now, like I said, grief is a strong and sometimes overwhelming emotion for people, whether stemming from sadness or the death of a loved one. All right, it's very intense. It's very intense when it happens. Whoever is grieving feels this intense emotion that is very deep. Okay, now other words that people use for grief may be sorrow, or some call it eyebrow, or I'll just say it, just say synonyms sort of. Now the another thing about grief is that it's characterized with great sadness. Yes, grief is characterized with great sadness, and it's not something that one suddenly decides to go through. It's something that stems from an event that has occurred. So someone dear to you passes away, you feel that deep sense of emotion for the person, and that makes you feel terrible. You might find yourself feeling numb. You might find yourself being taken away from the day-to-day life activities. You might be unable to carry out your regular duties when this happens. All right, and that is why it is usually very intense. It is usually unquantifiable. You cannot measure how much grief someone is going through. You cannot justify the intensity of what someone is going through. It's multifaceted. Is a response to loss that is multifaceted, especially when there is a loss of someone or something. All right, and usually you usually have a bond with the person who passes away for you to experience grief. Now, this bond differs, and the same way this bond differs is the same way you feel the grief at the demise of the person. So if you're closely related to someone and that person passes on, then you will be very how do I put it now? You'll feel so much emotions and so much grief around you towards that person. But if you've known this person just from a distance, then you may not feel as much grief as the person who is close to that person feels. Now, this is an interesting quote that says, "Death's greatest power is not that it can make people die, but that it can make people left behind want to stop living." And this quote clearly explains the reason why sometimes people grieving may end up ideating suicide or thinking of suicide, because they begin to ask themselves different questions. Why did I? Why did he die? Why did she die? Why was it her? Why not me? This person is too young, and a whole lot of questions that may come up. All right, it is because once death occurs, now those who are alive begin to ask various questions and begin to question the reason for their existence, because nobody, irrespective of age, really wants to lose anyone, and there is no age at which a person dies that is deemed fit. Even if that person is 150 years old, the people left behind still feel deeply hurt that this person has gone. All right, so when you look at grief in that sense, you would agree with me that it is an emotion that you may not even be able to express how you feel at that moment. Some people black out, and they are just there and numb. They cannot feel anything, they cannot express themselves, they cannot state clearly how they are feeling. Some people just find themselves in one corner because depression is setting and all sadness, uninterested in things happening around them. All right, so I want you to begin to think, deep within yourself, and see if at any point in your life after losing someone you have had this deep sense of loss and this deep heaviness in your heart or these emotions. Now in the question below, you're going to state if at any point in time you have lost someone and how did you feel when you lost this person. Now the intention or the reason for asking this question is to actually know if indeed you felt that sense of grief at the loss of that person. Now, do not get it wrong. It is not compulsory that you feel it immediately. Yes, because there are some people whose grief is delayed. You may not feel it at that particular moment. It might be years later that something comes up and then you now begin to feel that sense of emotion. All right, but I want you to look deep within yourself, take a deep breath, and think back that time that you lost someone. Did you really feel like you have lost a big part of you? Did you cry? Did you mourn or something? Did you feel that grief emotions? Think deep and provide answers in the page below. I'll see you in lesson 2, and in lesson 2 we're looking at why do people grieve. See you soon.